Before the year 2026 begins, HYBE is like an unshakable giant. They have BTS as a foundation, successful new groups, and a system that is recognized as efficient in the entertainment world. But once Jungkook decided on his own path, launching projects that weren't always tied to the company's agenda, that foundation began to falter. Jungkook was no longer just a part of the system. He created his own new system. An example of this was clearly seen during the release of his solo project in 2025. While other artists are still relying on traditional promotional schedules, talk shows, variety, weekly music broadcasts, Jungkook is choosing a more personal path. Global activities, fashion campaigns, cross-industry collaborations, to never-before-announced live performances. This strategy left the global media bewildered, as there was no pattern they could follow. He is like a shadow that always appears in unexpected places, from the Calvin Klein Tokyo launch stage to cross-country musical collaborations released without major promotions. And every time Jungkook appears, the entire internet seems to pause. Even digital platforms such as Spotify and YouTube record a sudden surge in traffic every time their name is mentioned in global trends. This is no ordinary promotion strategy. This is a new pattern where the artist is no longer a product of the company, but a center of gravity that pulls all sectors of the industry towards him. HYBE, which had been known as the agency with the most planned management system, began to lose control over the direction of the narrative. Because Jungkook's every decision, no matter how small, now has a domino effect on the entire Korean entertainment ecosystem. When Jungkook decided to appear at a global event without HYBE's promotion system involved, his influence was so great that brands, the media, and even investors began to observe his steps independently of the company. For the first time in the history of modern Korean agencies, an artist is no longer considered part of the machine, but rather the machine itself. And for HYBE, this becomes a critical point. Here's a dilemma the K-pop industry has never faced before. What if the system you're building is suddenly controlled by people who are supposed to be controlled? Jungkook is no ordinary idol. He was the product of the perfection of the HYBE system, but now he is reversing course and showing that the system can run itself. He knows the algorithms, knows how the media works, knows how the public reacts. But what scares the industry the most is Jungkook knows when to do nothing. At a time when other artists are frantically looking for the spotlight, he chooses silence. And that silence instead creates a new sensation. This was a new level of power that even an agency as big as HYBE was not prepared to deal with. The year 2025 is a turning point. Back then, Jungkook dominated the global music charts without a major campaign. Songs like Standing Next to You and his international collaborations stayed on the world charts for months without a single conventional promotion. Behind the scenes, HYBE analysts are trying to figure out what makes it different. They discover that Jungkook's strength lies in his emotional connection with the public, but not through fan service, but through authenticity. The public trusts him because he looks human, not the result of an artificial system. And ironically, this is what scares HYBE. The more real Jungkook is, the weaker their influence will be. His every move can now change the global trend. When she appeared at the airport in a casual outfit, sales of the brand she wore soared. When he greeted fans via a casual live broadcast, the number of followers of the platform increased by millions in just a matter of hours. And when he didn't show up at all, the world's media wrote hundreds of articles asking, "Where is Jungkook now?" He has become a living symbol, not just a pop icon, but a social phenomenon. And when an artist reaches that point, there is no longer a system that can hold it. In the past, labels were the regulator of everything. when music was released, where artists performed, and how they performed in front of the public. But now, Jungkook has reversed that scenario. The world is no longer a place where he performs because of the label, but rather a place where the label is trying to catch up with him. It transcends geographical and institutional boundaries. Imagine this. He could perform in Tokyo for a Calvin Klein campaign, return to Korea for a music project, then appear in New York in a matter of weeks, all without an official announcement, without a major promotion system. HYBE is even rumored to often adjust their press releases to align with Jungkook's spontaneous moves. It is like a system that is forced to adapt to an entity that it itself created. And most interestingly, Jungkook seems to be aware of this. In rare interviews, he spoke of creative freedom and the desire to do things his own way. Many consider this a casual comment, but to industry insiders, it's a declaration of revolution. Jungkook is no longer part of HYBE's formula. He is an unpredictable variable. The label is now no longer the center of direction, but an observer from the edge of the stage, waiting for what the next step he will take. And that made many major labels start to rethink. Is the system they've been building really effective for this new era? When the news of HYBE in an internal panic began to appear in the industry media, the public actually saw something different. The artist's victory over the system, Jungkook has become a new symbol of independence, even without leaving his label. He proved that loyalty and freedom can go hand in hand, that a person can remain part of the structure, but control it from within. And that's probably the most revolutionary thing of all, because what is seen as a panic within the company is actually perceived as a transformation by the outside world. Jungkook did not destroy the K-pop system. It updates it in a way that no one ever planned. And perhaps, in the future, the industry will realize that this panic that HYBE is experiencing in 2026 is not the end, but the beginning of a new round in which the artist finally becomes a real center of gravity. When HYBE prepares promotions for its artists, all the steps are planned down to the second. From when the teaser is released, who posts first, to what hashtags should be trending at a certain hour. But for Jungkook, none of that matters anymore. Because even without the HYBE strategy, the world is already promoting itself. When Jungkook uploads a single photo on Instagram, it's not just an upload. It's a global signal. In a matter of minutes, international media wrote articles, large fan base accounts turned on the alarm, and the platform's algorithm changed due to just one of its activities. This is where the breakdown of the system lies. HYBE promotion loses its functionality. Any normally tightly controlled move becomes meaningless as Jungkook creates a stronger organic momentum than any PR plan. For example, during the release of 7 and 3D, HYBE prepared a global promotion timeline. But as it turned out, when Jungkook appeared on an unscheduled live broadcast and talked casually about the songs, engagement increased much higher than all the promotional material that had been scheduled. The world is no longer waiting for the official release. They are waiting for a real moment from Jungkook. This phenomenon has led many industry analysts to refer to it as the disintermediation of celebrity influence, in which artists step over traditional distribution systems and interact directly with the public. HYBE is also caught in a dilemma. They can no longer manage Jungkook like regular idols, but they also can't ignore him because his power is too great. Internally, word got out that HYBE's promotion team had to change their entire approach to future projects as they realized any traditional strategy would look rigid when compared to the spontaneous but explosive Jungkook effect. Even HYBE's senior executives began to admit Jungkook was no longer part of the marketing system. He was the new system itself. Over the years, the HYBE system was built with a highly efficient structure. They rely on a fast production model, full control of the artist's image, as well as integration between labels, distribution, and merchandising. But Jungkook came up with a different style. He slowed down the industry's too fast rhythm, put quality first, and refused to be part of a monotonous pattern that suppressed personal expression. When other artists follow the pattern of releases and promotions that are already arranged, Jungkook actually creates that randomness work. He can appear suddenly on the international stage and then disappear without a definite schedule. And precisely because of that unpredictability, the world is more and more captivated. HYBE's old system, which relied on control, is now becoming obsolete because the public values authenticity more. Jungkook carries the value of organic authenticity that no company can engineer. Every interaction, gesture, even the calm in his silence, everything becomes a public narrative. HYBE, who has been acting as the sole narrator of her artist career, has now lost the power to write Jungkook's story. It was the fans, the media, and even music analysts who continued the story, forming a new system based on social interpretation. And this is where HYBE is completely overwhelmed. They can't predict when Jungkook will create the next big moment, but every time it happens, their old systems shake. As if the world of entertainment is now waiting not from agencies, but from individuals. And in an industry built on control, that's the biggest nightmare that could happen for a company as big as HYBE. Typically, companies will cheer when their artists achieve global success. But in HYBE, Jungkook's success creates internal pressure, because each of his achievements shows how unnecessary the old system is. While Jungkook set the record for highest streaming, sales, and digital engagement, it was not born from HYBE's campaign, but from the organic power of the global community he built. Jungkook is living proof that the traditional idol system is no longer the only path to global success. HYBE, who was once known for meticulous planning, now looks slow to respond to change. They want to celebrate their success, but are also afraid of losing control over it. This paradox is clearly seen in the way HYBE began to hold back massive promotions for Jungkook's next project. They tried to reset the direction, but in fact, the public did not wait for HYBE's permission to worship Jungkook. The internet has taken over. And this is where we see the symbolic downfall of the old system. When the company that had been governing the industry is now precisely the audience for its own artists. The year 2026 hasn't even started yet, but one thing is certain: Jungkook has changed everything. Will HYBE be able to adapt and rebuild its system to face this post-management era? Or is it that the system will completely collapse, replaced by a new model in which artists like Jungkook become the center of gravity of the industry? Time will tell. But one thing is clear: the history of K-pop will never be the same again after HYBE in panic. Kim Jungkook just broke the system.